Now, I will mention something very important that a lot of people don't know that, again, is going to save you hours of research. There's something called community property states. There are all the states around the country have rules in those states where when you buy real estate or have anything, when you're legally married to someone, it's either a community property state or a non-community property state. If you're in a community property state, which currently is the green areas, when you get a government loan, government type sponsored loan, so that is FHA, USDA, or VA, it is mandatory that we pull the credit of the legal spouse, even if that legal spouse is not on the loan. So this is really important because when I break this news to people, no one ever has any idea, because why would you? It's not the first thing that you would think of. It's just not readily available information. So I'm going to say it again. If you live in one of the states in the green, you're in a community property state. And when you purchase a home, you're legally married, separated is not recognized. So if you're legally married, we have to pull the spouse's credit, and that person on the loan, their income has to carry the debt to income ratio requirement, carry the burden of all the household debt. So it's very important. We have seen people not qualify because maybe there's a house in the name of one of them and not the other. So if you think that applies to you, I suggest that you get your credit up to qualify for a conventional loan, because a conventional loan does not have this requirement. It's only the government loans that require the community property state spouse credit to be pulled, and the applicant has to carry the weight of the household debts when we calculate the debt to income ratios. All right, I want to remind you about the checklist. I can't wait to tell you about the checklist later, so please stick around because we're going to talk about that at the very end. Secret number 2, what credit score do lenders look at? I don't know about you, but I am squirreling on this screen right now. And that is because this is what it's like in the FICO world. So FICO is actually a Fair Isaac company. It is a company that years ago, like we're talking in the 50s and 60s, it was a scientific data company. And there was a lot of reform going on in the 80s and the 90s regarding credit. And the credit community like Experian, TransUnion, Equifax, they approached FICO and said, hey, we're looking for a way to normalize how we look at credit. And they said, we want to buy this formula. We want your formula, Mr. FICO, to be the formula that we use for credit. I just thought that was some interesting history that you might want to know. I thought it was fascinating. But anyway, so FICO is a company that developed this scientific formula to analyze data, like in science and all these things. So they came up with the algorithm that now is widely used by like 90% of the lenders. So I will tell you, not every lender in the mortgage lending arena uses FICO. Most of them do. 90% is a pretty big number. Now, Jennifer, which one of these things is what lenders use? It's a mixture, but I will tell you with certainty several things. If you'll notice on the screen that there's an auto score, there's a bank card score, and there's just a score. So when I poll clients, every time clients call me, I always do an intro call with them. I always ask, what do you think your score is? And they say, oh, let me go to my bank app. Let me go to, an app that I subscribe to. There's some of them that are popular. You've heard of Credit Karma, Credit Wise, Mint. There's all these different ones. Let me go there. I will tell you the bad news is that 9 times out of 10, remember, I pull a lot of credit every month. The credit score that we pull, lenders, mortgage lenders, is different than what you think your score is. It's just different. And the score that we use is constantly being updated. In fact, since I even made these slides like a month ago, there's now a FICO 10. Like it's not even on here. FICO 10 is now out. And so lenders, of course, are now assimilating all that they're doing. So most lenders use the same versions of FICO, and there's a different one for Experian, a different one for Equifax, and a different one from TransUnion. I'm not even going to tell you what they are because it might change tomorrow. Like it's constantly changing. Lenders pay big money in order to have an accurate version of FICO because our concern is how are you going to pay your mortgage in the next 2 years? We want to look back at the last 2 years the most heavily because that's the prediction of your habits now. Forget about what you did 25 years ago. Like that doesn't even matter. It matters what you're doing right now. So our algorithms are tweaked very differently. In fact, I want to let you know that through this research that I was doing, I found out that these very well-regarded platforms don't even show collections. Now it all makes sense to me because many times I will break the news to a client. They're like, why is my score so low? Like I have scores sometimes, y'all, that are 70 points different, 80 points than what you think it is. Now, I don't say this to scare you, but you came to this because you want the real facts, right? Well, this is it. these platforms, and there may be more, I was just overwhelmed at 5. These platforms don't even recognize collections. Our algorithm definitely does. So it's totally different. We're not even looking apples to apples. This is what's so crucial for y'all to understand. The only way that you're going to know what your mortgage credit score is to talk to a mortgage lender. Now, when you talk to the lender, we are able to pull a soft pull. Some lenders are, some aren't. Ask them if they're able to pull a soft pull so it's not a hard inquiry into your credit. Okay. So that's probably the number one reason why people don't pull their credit, is they're very nervous about the inquiry. And I get it, but I'm going to reveal something to you in just a minute. The inquiries are not as big of a deal as you think, but regardless, you could do a soft pull on the score. What the heck, Jennifer? You're giving me all this information. Your head is probably exploding. You're like, what is going on? This is not what I thought. How do I know? Okay. The most well-regarded, what I have found to be the best mortgage credit score is myfico.com. We're going to put that link in the chat. I really like MyFICO. In fact, I personally am going to be buying a house this summer, probably, hopefully, if my house sells as quick as I think it is. But I was like, all right, I'm going to subscribe to MyFICO. There is a fee if you want to subscribe to it. I subscribed and it showed me 2 credit scores. It said, hey, here's your general credit score. And then I clicked on the button and said, hey, what's my mortgage credit score? And it was like 25 points different. Okay. And then it gave me some education, why my score was lower, et cetera. Now, my mortgage credit score was lower, okay, than the generic score. For me, it was 25 points. For you, it might be the same. Sometimes it's the same. It might be a larger difference. It just depends what's on your credit. Now, myfico.com also has an amazing, you do not have to pay for this part of it. Like, you can go here and just use it for education. There's a great education tab. You can read about the history of FICO and what goes into the scores. And there's a community tab. That's why I really love it. There's a great community tab where there's live answers to questions that people are asking. I mean, it was really robust. So I suggest you go there and really scroll around. You can do that for free. And then if you're within 12 months of buying a home, I definitely would start to look at your mortgage credit score from a trusted source, because it is going to be different than all those other platforms that we talked about. So the other cool thing on there, I got this directly from MyFICO, is what percent of these different attributes is allocated to your score. Now, first, I want to draw your attention to the little 10%. The smallest piece of the pie is actually inquiries. Now, I'm not here to say that inquiries do not matter. That's not true. However, they don't matter as much as you think. Everybody, I wish I actually had $1 for everybody that is completely wigged out about their credit, as you should be. I'm not downplaying that. But y'all are so worried about the inquiries about a lender pulling your credit. I want to share with you that any mortgage lender that hard pulls your credit in a 30-day period just counts as 1 pull. There are mechanisms in place for you to be able to pull your credit and not be affected so that you can shop around for a loan. So that's just one thing that I will say. Now, there is a soft pull. When you do a soft pull, there is not any inquiry into your credit. However, this just happened to me last week. It was so painful. This is the downside of a soft pull. So if you're within 3 months of buying, I would not do a soft pull. I would do a hard inquiry, because we can use a credit report for 4 months. Like, once we pull your credit, if you're going to buy soon, we don't have to pull it again. And the reason I'm spending time on this is because it's now happening more and more. So we had this couple, we pulled their credit. He was a 787. And we're like, perfect, no problem. They just insisted that I pull a soft pull. I was like, fine, no problem. So they got under contract like a month later, and we have to pull a hard pull at the time of contract. Like, we have to. So I'd given them an interest rate based on their 787. I said, okay, here's the rates today, et cetera. Well, then guess what happened? I pulled the credit on the hard pull. His score went down 90 points because, as the universe would have it, a collection hit his credit 2 weeks after I had pulled it on the soft pull. Now,
Seriously?
he's scrambling right now to get it removed, and we're in process of doing a rescore. He scrambled, he got a letter. It's very hard to do, but I think we're going to have success with it. I think it's like due this week, the rescore. But the point is, his interest rate was then going to be like 0.25% higher because he was in a different interest rate category. Like, he was floored. Had we only pulled the hard pull from the beginning, we wouldn't have had to pull it again. So I just want to mention that if that's you, and I know we have some realtors joining us too. I know a lot of realtors. So some of you are on. If your clients are closing within a few months and they're definitely going to buy something, just do a hard pull. And remember, any lenders that hard pull your credit within 30 days, it only counts as 1. So that's the learning lesson I wanted to pass on. Now, the other 2 categories that you really need to focus on is payment history, meaning late pays and collections, and the amount that is owed, the percent utilization. So I am going to go directly in this because that leads us to secret number 3. The 2 areas that you really need to focus on are your percent utilization, amounts owed on your credit cards, and collections. Late payments, y'all, I'm just going to be super honest right now. If you're late, we're talking 30 days late, because if you're 1 day late, like yesterday, actually, I have a new credit card and I was like, oh my gosh, I didn't set up auto debit. I was 1 day late. I went in there, I paid it. I paid the late fee, unfortunately, and I set it up on auto debit. Set stuff up on auto debit. If you drag things to 30 days late, the likelihood of you getting that removed is it's like a -1. Like, I don't even think in the last few years that I have seen a credit company, a vendor, a credit card, a whatever. I mean, here's what they say. Oh, well, the computer and this and that, and we're not allowed to go in there, and you paid 30 days late. So be careful, because I get it. Times are hard. You're crunching numbers. Your pay comes every 2 weeks or however you're paid. Make sure that you pay by the 27th day whenever possible, because you know that it takes a couple of days for your payment to show up. So if you think that you can pay on the 29th day at night at midnight and be credited to not be 30 days late, that's where you guys might get in trouble. So make sure that you pay attention to that. Now, we're going to go over first, actually, the credit cards. I know I went on the late payments, but we're going to do credit cards first, and then we're going to go to collections, because collections is really what we're going to concentrate on, because that's the one that has the biggest opportunity for you to change. But first, we're going to talk about credit cards. Okay. Now, this is going to be a mouthful. Like, I want y'all to really stop scrolling. I know you might be watching TikTok right now, but I want you to pay attention, because this is super important, because all of us have credit cards. Come on. You want points, you want airline points, you want hotel points. I want all that too. Truth about credit cards is that on each card that you have, you want to keep your balance 30% or below. This is the part where everybody gets messed up. The balance that's reported to the bureau only happens once a month. The creditors, they have to pay money to report you every month. They are not going to update your balance every time you update your balance. They're just not. So when your statement cuts off, like my credit card statement with all my airline miles on it, okay, cuts off on the 9th. So on the 9th, whatever my statement says when it comes out, that's what's being reported. So if you think that you're buying a house in the next, I'd say 6 to 12 months, you want to start training yourself to go in. You need to have several months in a row, not just 1 month, but the algorithm needs to see a habit that you habitually can walk around town with a credit card in your pocket and not overcharge. It doesn't matter if your credit limit is only $300. Like, oh, Jen, my limit's only $300. Why should it matter? It's only $300. Doesn't matter. It's a percent utilization game. Doesn't matter the amount. So make sure that when your statement cuts off, if you are maxed out, or let's say you have a one-time charge, we have a lot of people, they're like, oh, it's my company card, and my company reimburses me. I get it. The time you need to zero in and really pay attention is 6 to 12 months. Probably 6 to 9 months before you're buying a house, so that you have a few months in a row showing low utilization. That's how your score is going to improve. So if you're above that 30%, I would rush in like 3 or 4 days before. I would pay it down. You're going to pay it in full anyway, hopefully, and let it cut out at the 30%. Don't pay it to zero. Never zero. That's why I put zero really big. If you pay it to zero, then there's no record that it even existed. It's poof in the air. It's gone. You want something to report. Anywhere from 10 to 30% is fine, because the algorithm bonuses you on being able to maintain a low spending habit. If it's zero, how do they know? How do they know that you're spending anything? So make sure when your statement cuts off. So I just spent a lot of time on that, because this is so super important. And this right here, y'all, there's like 40 to 60 points on everybody's credit just with this one tactic. Like, this is how crucial it is. So anytime we pull credit on clients and they need points to get over a milestone to like get a better interest rate, I'm like, oh, your credit card, this is what you need to do. And it works every time. Now, the other thing I will tell you is that the number of credit cards that you have, revolving credit cards, like a store, like an Amazon or PayPal, or I see these are all the ones that I see now, right? Best Buy, all those, any kind of credit card is counted in this category. 2 to 3 is ideal. If you have dormant cards from a long time ago that you haven't used in forever, here's the biggest myth that's out there.